Mitigation is defined as the process of reducing risk potential. And a lot of arborists who specialize in hazard tree assessment also specialize in mitigation. There's things that can be done. You can remove the target. You could talk the landowner into not developing the property and to not having an office building and to going broke because he bought the property and he can't do anything with it. And the owner tells you what to do. You could fence off the area. You could plot out all the possible locations where the tree could fall, and you can fence the whole thing off. You can remove the dead and broken branches. If that's the problem with it, unlike the case of a hollow tree, that can help. You can install bracing and cabling. That Melaleuca tree I showed you, where I took one of my arboriculture classes, is owned by the town of Davie, suburb of Fort Lauderdale. It's the oldest Melaleuca in Florida. It's historical. The town has declared it a historical landmark. The state of Florida wants the town to have the tree cut down. The town has told the state of Florida, no. That tree, which was planted in 1908, has started falling apart from old age. The town of Davie had to hire an arborist to mitigate it because it's a public park. And they didn't want the branches hitting anybody. So they put that little fence around that the people were, that little decorative fence, and they hired an arborist to cable it and brace it. They hired a friend of mine to do the job. He said it was the craziest job he ever did. He had to use a bucket because he couldn't climb the tree because the tree had fallen if he tried to climb the tree. So he had to use a bucket, and he had to cable and brace a tree that's illegal to have. He said, I've never had a job like that before. We're having an illegal tree. I have a town that owns it that's defying the state of Florida, but he cabled it and he braced it. So it stabilized the tree. Or you could put in lightning protection systems. In the case of this tree, they built the office park and they fenced the area all around it, and the developer put benches and little rest stops, and the tree had a name, the such and such treaty tree, and school groups come, visit the business and spend money there, and the little kids sit and listen to their teachers telling them about the history of the tree. When that tree does fall, because of the location of the fencing, it's not going to hit anybody. And that's what's meant by mitigation. And sometimes in the hazard tree business, the owner wants you to give them advice on mitigation. There's a cabling and bracing. If you are doing specialized work in hazard tree assessment, the last several slides show you some examples of how it's done. If you don't do that work, if you are a general landscape management professional and you don't do hazard tree assessments, you're still held to a higher standard because of your profession. You have a higher level of knowledge and a higher level of experience than the average person. If you see a potential hazard, it's your duty to tell it to the property owner. It's the property owner's job to decide what to do about it. It's the property owner's job to decide what level of risk is acceptable. If you don't report it and the tree falls down and hurts somebody, and somebody blames the property owner, who's the first person the property owner is going to blame? You. So you should report it, and you should make sure the report is documented. You could write it on the invoice. You could send them a letter. You say, I recommend you have a hazard tree assessment. I mean, I don't care that you hired me to just do fertilization. I saw something that I think you should know about. Here it is. And that would make the world a safer place. But all landscape trees pose some sort of risk. Most of them pose very little risk. 99+% pose virtually insignificant risks. It's the small number, that less than 1%, that make all the headlines. And they're not that difficult to recognize if you know the danger signs. Codominant leaders, girdling roots, included bark, decay in the trunk or decay in the branches, fungal fruiting bodies. I'm done. Thank you.